All right. Hey, how we doing? Good? We good? Good. Well, thanks for coming out. I apologize. I usually like to walk around. Unfortunately, 2 days ago, I was, I don't know, anybody seen the franchise show? Anybody saw that? So, if you've seen it, I have a 4-year-old boy now who's like the size of like a 12-year-old. So, I was home the other night, and I came home, and he's a very rambunctious young man. And he came jumping off the couch and flying around the corner, and he went to give me a hug, and I knelt down to give him a hug, and he jumped, and he kind of hit me, and my knee went in, and I sprained my MCL trying to hug my kid. So now I've got another DL stint coming, so now I've got one stabbing to the hand and one hugging my kid DL scenario. This one will only be a couple weeks, thank God. But so I'm walking around with a big, bulky, annoying knee brace, so I'm not going to move around a whole lot, but I want to thank you. And then I'm sorry I'm dressed like this. I understand it's college, and you guys don't care, probably. But I'm probably a little more professional, but I can't get my pants over my knee brace. And I figured it'd be kind of weird to have that over, the knee brace over the pants. And then I woke up this morning to no power in my house. So I have not showered. And I couldn't see in my closet to get anything out of there. So I just threw a hat on and this. I'm just glad it matches, to be honest with you. But yeah, so I showed up. So I appreciate you guys coming. This is awesome. And I was really happy Robert was able to send me this email. I usually don't. I try to speak every now and then during the season, but my season is pretty like busy. And so we kind of hanging out with my family, and then I go to the ballpark at 2. I don't get home till 11. Wake up in the morning, hopefully with power. Go swim with my kids, and then I go to the ballpark type thing. So. But this was a situation where I wanted to make sure I was here for, because I'm very passionate about baseball, obviously. This is my 11th season in the major leagues. I'm very passionate about youth culture, understanding youth culture, understanding how youth culture thinks, how we are changing with the times. I also speak for an organization called Growing Leaders, which is a leadership organization that uses word pictures to teach training on leadership skills. So I do a lot of that. And I really am interested in the youth culture movement and what people are interested in. And I find now, more than I was, even at 16, based on my organization, I run an organization called Generation Alive, and it does a lot of stuff in high school and colleges, and it's very intriguing to see how many kids, even at 14, 15, 16, and then on up through the ranks, are interested in justice and injustice and what things are not right and what things are right. Man, at 16, I was chasing girls, and 2, I was playing sports. I was trying to figure out who I am. My funny story, at 16 years of age, my wife actually stood up in class and said she'd never marry a guy like me. Took it as a challenge, and I won. So it was kind of that kind of whole thing was in. I wasn't worried about it. I didn't know anything was going on around the world. I didn't know trafficking existed. I didn't know there was a water crisis. I didn't know. I mean, you see you'd walk on the streets and you see people without homes, but you didn't really think twice about it. It wasn't something that was on my mind. And so to see now the amount of youth that are interested in this is very awesome to me, because it has become a passion of mine, and I lose sleep over it. And, baseball, you wanted to talk about being a baseball player and being a Giant, and I've got tons of stories I could tell, and I'll tell a few, but honestly, like, baseball for me has become something that it is a focus for me. It is a talent and a skill that I try to hone every day. But it is there's a reason why I do it. And it's not so I can have 17 houses and 30 BMWs and yachts and get in trouble in People magazine for doing something stupid and shooting myself in the foot at nightclubs and doing that kind of stuff. So, that's not why I do the sport. I do it because it's a passion of mine to be on a platform, to be able to speak with young adults like you, and 2, to be able to be a part of organizations like Not for Sale, and use my influence in the media, and now Twitter. I didn't really want to start a Twitter account, and I was told I had to by my organization back in Spokane, so that's why I started it. I will not tell you that I'm eating a hamburger at whatever, McDonald's, or you're not going to find that on my Twitter account, to be honest with you. I try to encourage people. I try to let people know about different things that are going on in the world that I have come to understand, because I believe baseball, in sports in general, we have a platform to influence a lot of people, and we do influence a lot of people, whether we like it or not. And one of the things that I fight against every day are not necessarily teammates, because if you've seen the Giants, we're a very interesting group of guys. So, but there's been other teams and other players I've played against for a long time that literally say they don't want to be a role model. They just want to play baseball and go home, and people shouldn't follow them because they don't want to be responsible for the mistakes they make for other people seeing it. And I look at them and say, too bad. Get a different job. Because what you do as an athlete, everybody sees. And you knew that when you signed up for the job. And you're influencing a lot of people whether you like it or not. And so for me, it's a situation where when I do something, I want to make sure it's integral. And I want to do, now will I mess up? Yeah. I mean, I've been caught on camera trying to fight a bench coach in 2003. I've been part of a couple of brawls scenarios, and it happens in the game. So I've been part of those situations, but I've also been a part of a lot of good situations, a lot of situations that went bad, and I felt like I was a mediator that helped calm things down. And I feel more proud of those than the other ones, obviously. So for me, as an athlete, as a baseball player, I take it very seriously. And so the organizations that I do want to be an ambassador for, or that I do want to speak on behalf of, I do a lot of research before it happens. And as a baseball player, I think that's a responsibility. Because if you get caught up with the wrong groups, it looks bad on you. And it's not about just me looking bad. It's about people that watch you or maybe want to be like you, or want to follow in the foot, or things that you might have said. If the organization that I work for or speak for does the opposite, it's an integrity issue for me. And I'm a high integrity guy. I have two boys. I have, like I said, a 4.5-year-old. I have a 19-month-old, and my wife is pregnant with my third son, and she's still trying to deal with that. She wanted a girl. So she blames me, obviously, for the boy scenario. So, so I've got 3 boys, in which I look at as 3 leaders that are going to be whatever they want to be, and they can dream however they want to dream, but they will lead, and whether they like it or not. And the scenario that we have now with men is we don't lead very well because we don't want to. And I have 3 boys that I want to raise, and I want them to see that their dad did things positive. I have 2 books coming out. One is a book that's going to come out here shortly, and it was written for 15 to 30-year-old men, but there were some women that read it, and they said seemed to enjoy it, and it was life scenarios, stuff that you probably teach on a little bit, situations I've learned through baseball and how to be a leader, what I want my sons to understand as they're growing up. And then I have another book basically written on justice and stuff, but that book is basically, if I were to get hit by a bus leaving here today, I want my sons to handle that book, to know the vision their dad carried. And that's something that's very important to me, and that book will be coming out a little bit later. But it talks a lot about baseball and justice and why I do what I do. Being a major league athlete is, especially a baseball player, we were actually just talking about this over at the cafeteria over there. Baseball is a really tough sport mentally. I'm not knocking any other sports. Football, man, I tell you, if you're a football player in here, you watch it, and by the time you're 50, you're probably not walking real well. So they get hit real hard, and it's a really tough sport. Basketball is a tough sport, obviously soccer. All these different sports are very, very tough to play at a collegiate level and at a major league level. Baseball, to me, is a different kind of sport. It is very, very tough to play, but I think you've seen some pitchers, and we don't look that athletic. I mean, and we don't necessarily look that in shape all the time. So pitching is not necessarily the most athletic thing when it comes to physique, but it's a mental sport for me. And it's a sport where you have to deal with situations, and you have to basically have the suck it up scenario. As a major league athlete, especially as a baseball player, you have to, even if you feel good, it might not always go well. And it's an individual sport that takes a team effort, because once I'm out on the mound and they hand me the ball, it is about me and the catcher and the hitter. And once I let the ball go, I have no control. And so for me, it's about learning how to deal with controllables and uncontrollables. And that's been a big thing for me when it comes to leadership scenarios, when it comes to justice scenarios, dealing with the control and uncontrollables. Like, I think we can control the voice that we have. We can't control the people that are trafficking these kids, but we can sure control the situation in the sense of exposing them, getting them into a situation where they're safe, and we can control those things. And that's why I joined justice groups like Not for Sale, because they want to have some control of what happens to these kids when most people don't even know it's happening. And so for me, it's a big thing that way as a baseball player. I think, I've had bad years, really bad years that I've had to deal with. I mean, I've had years where I wanted to quit. I've had years where I can't believe I didn't get released. I've been traded. This is my 4th team. We bounce around the country. We're always moving. There's a difference. My wife, she counted the other day. I was married when I was 20. This is my 13th year being married, and she counted. She was with me in the minor leagues a little bit, and we've moved basically 3 to 4 times a year for the last 14 years. So she's been in that many homes, and for a woman that likes to nest, she sacrifices quite a bit, and I get a look every now and then. That's not good. So so it's one of those deals for me. So we're always moving, but I was a military kid when I was growing up. I moved all over the world. I lived in Guam. We actually traveled to Thailand, and I was actually a part of a potential trafficking situation when I was growing up, which my dad and I were talking about the other day, and we didn't realize that it was that situation. I don't have blonde hair, obviously now, probably more gray, but I was a towhead. I was actually almost white hair when I was growing up and living in Guam. It's a little island in the South Pacific, 30 miles long, 10 miles wide. And my dad was a bombardier for a B-52 during the Cold War in the 80s. So we were over near that area, and he went on missions, and we never knew when he was coming home and all that stuff. Well, he was able to get us to a trip to Thailand to go see the sights. And so I've always been someone that likes to be out seeing things. And so went to Thailand. I was walking down a street, and in the 80s, honestly, I don't think anybody thought about it. And my dad, I asked my dad, why'd you let me even walk out in front of you? I wouldn't let my kid off my side nowadays, in some scenarios, My dad, I was just walking ahead of my parents. My mom was getting mad because these birds were crapping on her head. And so I can remember that, and I'm looking at my mom like, what's the big deal, And then my dad was just and my sister, and this guy comes out of this strip club, and he grabs me, he says, hey, come here. And I'm like, what? He's like, come here, and grabs me. And all I remember was my dad physically removing this man from me, and I thought he was the coolest thing ever. I was like, my dad just popped that guy. That was, because this big. My dad's military. He's wearing a flight suit. You're like, oh, he's jacking dudes. I'm like, man, this is awesome. But I was like, man, Dad, man, well, I didn't understand. And my dad actually thought he was just trying to take me in there. But now that you understand what goes on over in those countries, in those situations, that's a deal where if you see a kid like that on the street, you don't see parents around, you steal them, and you can put them into a trafficking scenario and never be seen again. And so my dad and I have talked about this because he follows, and we really believe that was a scenario that, not to my knowledge at the time, but I really believe that was a scenario that was taking place, and it's obviously taking place a lot more, I think, now. But so it just increases my passion to fight this, and to be a giant. This, like I said, this is my 4th team. And to be a giant, this is the most interesting team I've ever been on, to be honest with you. I with the Royals, I just got used to losing 100 games a year. You pretty much walked in, got your butt kicked, got in your car and went home, and you just repeated the day the next day. It's like Groundhog Day. So it was a tough scenario for me over there, and I got tired of losing, and I was actually starting to hate the game, because when you lose that much, it is not fun, and it's really hard to sit there and have the whole just get yourself up, dust yourself off, and go right back at it to get your butt kicked again, and that's creepy. So it's just one of those deals where you're just like, I wanted out, and I was frustrated and angry, and so I got traded to Colorado. In Colorado, it was a situation where I walked into a scenario where everybody had families. My wife and I were we were just married, no kids. It was just her and I palling around. She wasn't ready for kids. I walk into a situation where they all had kids, and I think it's in the water, because next thing you know, she wants kids, and now we're popping them out like crazy. So we've got, so I was there. It was a great family atmosphere. I didn't do well my first year there, but the second year I had one of my best years. My free agency, I had one of my best years. I got to go to the World Series against the Boston Red Sox. Got our butts kicked in 4 games, got a loser ring, and went home. So it was one of those. Well, then I signed with Cincinnati. No idea why. I just went there because that was the team I had to sign with, and the free agency stuff going on. Went there for a year, and actually the Giants had actually called me that offseason to sign me, and they offered what they offered me at that time. I felt was insulting. I will not tell you what it was because you'll probably all charge me and want to beat me up, obviously. But it was insulting, I thought, and so I told him never call me again, and hung up. We basically hung up on him. And I signed with Cincinnati. Well, then right after that season, Cincinnati, the Giants called back, and I told my agent I thought we told him never to call again, and they pretty much offered exactly what I wanted. It took 5 minutes of negotiations. I had a forgiving heart, and I came here to San Francisco. And Cincinnati was the same. It was just a low-key team. We didn't really lose a lot, but we had a couple weird guys, but nothing really that big of a deal. And then I come here, and I kid you not, right after I signed, I can remember signing, flying in, and taking my physical, and then immediately flying out to Hawaii with my wife for anniversary. We had our anniversary. Then I came back for FanFest. And no joke, I get off the plane, and the guy that picks me up says, "Hey, we're waiting on one other guy." And I'm like, all right. And I'm just sitting there, and I got a nice shirt on, dressed like a professional, jeans, nice boots. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I see this guy walk out with a mohawk and some weird-looking shirt, these jeans that were like kind of weird with boots unopened and chains everywhere. And he gets in, and he's tatted up. And I go, "Hey, man, how you doing?" He goes, "Sup?" I'm like, maybe I should try to see if I can renege on the contract here. This is the guy. I'm like, "Who's that?" I didn't know. And all of a sudden, "Oh, he's your closer." I'm like, "Oh, God, great." And so we're just sitting there going in. I'm trying to talk to him. He doesn't say, "Oh, yeah, he had a jacket like this fur thing." I'm like, I'm just like, what is going on, man? And so it just, but it's kind of baseball, but you're like, all right, And then I walk in and start meeting guys, and it seems normal until... and then Zito had these dark shades on, and he was in a dark room. So I'm like, it's not. I didn't think it was bright in here, but it was like that situation, where it was just different guys, different personalities. It's kind of FanFest is okay, and then all of a sudden we got misfits and beards and weird clothes and gothems and we got all kinds of stuff working, So. I've kind of tried to deal with it because I'm a left-hander and I'm quirky in my own right. I'm not necessarily in that way. I don't have videos of me poofing up and fear the beard stuff. But, so you're just dealing with different characters on the team. And it has been an exciting ride for me because I honestly I've learned to love a lot better than I've ever loved humanity in my entire life. And I've learned to understand different cultures of people more than I've ever had to because this city is beautiful and it's got so many awesome different personalities and cultures, and it's just awesome to see people. And this city in general, for me, people ask me, what's the coolest thing about San Francisco? And the city's awesome. Obviously, playing for the Giants is awesome, but just to see the different run-a-thon, walk-a-thon, swim-a-thon, jog-a-thon, climb-a-thon, sit-a-thon, stand-a-thon, stuff for different groups of people is amazing. How this city has surrounded just humanity and has loved humanity, and I've really appreciated that. I am a man of faith. I believe in Jesus Christ, and so I follow those things. But I love people, and I love the love of your neighbor as yourself role model, and I think this city does a great job of it. And I think this campus, I know several people from this campus, and it carries that. I think it carries that spirit about them. They just love people, and they care about humanity, and they want to fight it. And so, right when I signed with San Fran, interesting thing, I was talking to a buddy, and I was getting into the justice, and I just had read like an article on trafficking. And I'm like, "Hey man, have you heard much about this human trafficking deal?" And my buddy has a hunger initiative in Kansas City, and he's like, "Yeah, I just heard a guy speak. His name's Dave Batstone. You got to check him out. He's got a pretty good initiative going with his trafficking. He just kind of started it, but he's got a lot of fire behind him." And so I Googled him, and I couldn't believe that. My wife said, "Look, check out where he lives. Half Moon Bay, Professor USF." I was just like, "Wow, I just signed like 2 weeks earlier, and found this out." And so I called Dave and I actually emailed him. I emailed Dave and asked him. I Googled his email and got it. I don't think it's safe, but I told him about it. It's kind of weird. But, you know, and so I emailed him, and we hit it off. And at FanFest, I met him for dinner, and just fell in love with the organization. And I said, I don't know how I can use this, but I want to try to use baseball as a platform. And so we started strategizing. And, you know, he said one thing to me that triggered me. And he said, you know, one thing about these kids that get trafficked is people basically steal them out of their dreams from being anybody. And they kill their soul, they kill their spirit, and they don't allow them to become anybody but for their selfish gain. And it triggered something for me because, you know, I lived in Merced, California. I don't know if anybody knows where that's at, but it's basically in the valley by Fresno. And I lived there. My dad was an instructor at Castle Air Force Base in Merced. And at that time, before it closed down, it was like the Top Gun for the Air Force. So my dad was an instructor there. And he used to take me to baseball games as a kid. We used to drive Oakland and San Fran were the two games we played. Man, I watched them all on TV. I watched the Will Clarks and the Kevin Mitchell one-handed barehand catch, and Dave Stewart pitching. He was one of my favorite pitchers to watch. And Dravecki, I watched him when he came back, and I saw that horrible situation. He's a good friend of mine now, so he's just a role model that I've always carried with me. And Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco hitting homers, Miles just bomb after bomb. Now I know why, but you know, but it was pretty impressive still to watch. I mean, I got to give that to him, you know. So it was just those deals, you know, and so I remember I went to an Oakland game, and my dad, you know, he wasn't the he was tightwad, to be honest with you, and we used to get this nosebleeds because he didn't want to pay for the good seats, and I used binoculars, you know, in the Coliseum in the old, you know, whatever the other Candlestick place is, you're so high up, you're like, I don't even know who's who down there. It looks like a bunch of mice running around, you know. So, you know, but one day he said, we got good seats, and we got them on the first level. Man, I was pumped. And I would go down there. And nowadays, you know, you get these, you kids ask you for autographs, and if you don't give it to them, they yell, yeah, screw you, you suck. You know, and you look at it, you're like, you're 12. How is that possible, you know? And, you know, when I was 12, I was like scared to death to even look at the guy, you know. And now these kids are basically going to come on the field and try to tackle you, you know, if you don't give them an autograph. And so I remember just standing there, and I went down where people were getting autographs, and I was just standing there looking at these players, and they were just so big. I mean, strong and just scary, you know. And I'm the biggest dork known to man. So like kids, if they look at me like that now, I'm like, please don't think I'm big, strong, and scary, because I'm not. I can got toilet bowl clean your arms, and I'm not that big, and I'm not scary, and I'm a dork. So, you know, I try to keep them from thinking that way. But I remember then I went back to my seat, and I sat next to my dad, and I was so excited. Dave Stewart, I think, was pitching, and Mark McGwire hit like 3 home runs that game. And I was just like, this is awesome. And I remember looking down at my dad, and I said, Dad, hey, man, or looking up at my dad, and I said, hey, Dad, I think I'm going to play here one day. And my dad looked at me and was like, oh, sounds good. You know, and patted me on the head, you know, and he never kept me from dreaming, but he let me play whatever I wanted to play. But I could never quit, whether it be soccer, whether it be my mom. Well, I wasn't allowed to play football. My mom thought I'd snap in half, so she never let that happen. But it was basketball, soccer, baseball. But anytime I started something, I could never quit. And I remember just loving baseball. And when I told my dad that, when he probably didn't even believe it, but even the fact that he said, you know what, son, he says, you go ahead and try, it helped me. And I always remember him saying that. I walked into this Coliseum, 22 years of age. I wasn't supposed to make the team out of spring training with Kansas City. I ended up having a really good spring, and the fans actually put pressure on the team to put me on the team, because they were writing in and saying, who's this guy, and you got to let him on the team. And we didn't have anybody else in Kansas City at the time, so it was, you know, nobody else to make. So they put me on the team, and I remember walking in. It was like, I think a month and a half or 2 months into the season. I walked in through center field, where the players, the visiting team, a lot of times walks in from, and I could remember I had the old cell phone with like the worm game. You know, it was like really old. You guys probably don't remember that, but it was like a 1998 cell phone. So I don't even think most of you were 10 yet when that happened. But you know, so I was sitting there, and I had this cell phone in my hand, and I stood in center field, and I could see the seat. I mean, I could see the section, not the exact seat, but I remember the section I was in. And I called my dad, and I said, hey, Dad, you know where I'm at? And he said, yeah, you're in Oakland. I'm like, yeah. I was like, I'm standing in center field. He's like, yeah. I'm like, no, do you remember what I said to you? And he goes, I'm like, Dad, I was 12 years old. I can see the seats we were sitting in when I looked at you, and I said, Dad, one day I'm going to be here. And my dad's a military guy. He does not cry. He hung up on me. And he hung up on me, and my mom called me back, and she goes, hey, your dad, I don't tell him I said this, but your dad's crying in the back room. I was like, all right, and because he realized that his son looked at him one day and said, this is what I want to do. And whether my dad believed in it or not, his son was able to accomplish a dream that even he didn't think would be accomplishable. And it probably, and I'm telling you, I've got 2 boys, the third one on the way, like I said. And I tell you, man, if my son gets to accomplish his dreams, I made it as a father, because I know that I provided for him the opportunities to be able to dream and to accomplish them. And one thing that I realized when Dave told me that, when they got their dreams stolen from them, is I looked at my wife, I went back to our hotel room, and for whatever reason, I was thinking about that story and how I accomplished my dream, and I said, we have to fight this, because I'm going to tell you, everybody has the right to say, one day I'm going to be. Everybody has that right. Everybody has a right to lay in their bed at night and look at the ceiling and say, this is what I dream of becoming, and they should have the right to try to make that happen. Trafficking kills that right. You steal their voice, and you steal that ability for them to be able to dream, and it's unacceptable. And so many people think that, oh, well, we don't do that. And I'm going to tell you, man, once you get more involved in this organization, you will understand that whether you believe it or not, we've all supported trafficking. We've all done it. Your cell phone's got something and it supports it. I'm not saying it's an easy cause, and that's one of the hardest things about this fight is, especially as an athlete, I'm trying to promote, like we should all be free to play. Like, granted, my rights are for sale to a point, obviously. I sell my talent. But I have the right to say no. And I have the ability to say, this is not what I want to do. And everybody has the right to pick. You should not have to be forced into a scenario where someone tells you who to have sex with. That's not right. So no one should tell you what you have to do under gunpoint. That's not right. Shouldn't be allowed. And as an athlete, we have to stand up for those things, because I did not make it to this position because someone put a gun to my head and said, do this. I did not make it to this position because someone forced me into an adult situation that said, this is what you're going to be. I chose this route. I chose to either succeed at it or I choose to fail at it. I do it every day. Every pitch I throw, I choose a pitch that I want to throw, and I'm going to live and die by that pitch. And I've died by a lot of them. Trust me. And I've also lived well under a lot of them. But I had the right to choose it. And you have the right to choose your own dream. You have the right to choose your own destiny. You all have a destiny. Well, when we support trafficking, we're supporting I got to be careful with my language here, but we got to be careful with just these guys who are going out and just making sure people are like, I'm greedy, I want selfish gain, you are a survival of the fittest mentality, so you are weaker, I'm going to take you and force you to do something because you've got no choice, because I can stronghold you into it. That is not right. That is the worst possible thing you can do against humanity, is take someone's dreams from them and force them to do what you want them to do. And that is not acceptable. And as an athlete, I want to stand up on that platform. The hard thing about the hard thing about this, and the not for sale, I've voiced this before, and I think everybody understands how hard it is this is such a deep deal. This is not A to B equals C. This is a deep scenario. Because there might be a business that does not support trafficking, but they buy cotton, and they don't know. A lot of these organizations don't even know where they're buying their cotton, and it could be trafficked cotton. You don't have no idea. The sex trade industry is a little bit, I think, more approachable in the sense of, hey, look, just don't buy it. It's not that hard. You can fight against it by not promoting it, by not accepting it, by being against it. And the only reason that is in play is because of greed and lust. That's the only reason that's in play. And so that's a little bit more controllable. My thing is, when it comes to child labor, man, it is really difficult. Because I guarantee you that in this cell phone right here, there's a part that was probably made by a slave. And I bought it. It's really hard to fight. It's really hard to understand. But one thing I have done is smart advocacy as an athlete especially, is I look at what things do I buy and what are the organizations I buy for. I fear all the time. I'll buy a shirt or something, I'll be like, I had no idea. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where Lululemon, I honestly don't know where Lululemon gets their stuff. All I know is it's really comfortable. But I don't know, and I'm hoping we can find that out. We do research all the time on this. But as an athlete, as someone that has a voice, and that's the thing, is I don't look at myself as, ooh, look at me. I promise you. I promise you, I do not pitch so that everybody can stare at me. I am not a self-promoter. I will not sit there and go out and do certain things so that I can be promoted as, look at me, look how good I am, because I have a lot of, one, respect for the game, and two, I got too much respect for myself to be a self-promoter of myself a lot. So I look at it as, okay, what can I do? Why do I succeed? I've got to succeed, like I said earlier, for more than just myself. I've got to go out there and know that when I fail and I get myself back up, why am I doing it? Why am I going out here and especially if you're struggling at that time of the season, why do I keep doing this? Why don't I just quit? I had a situation in Kansas City where I wanted to quit one day, and my wife grabbed me and she said, if you quit everything that you've told these young people about having a dream, having a destiny, working hard towards it, surrounding yourself with friends that all have dreams, and that when you have something in front of you and you have your sights set on such a huge dream, that you surround yourself with people that push you to that dream, if you quit, all that stuff is void. That's what happens when you quit, when things get tough. Because no kid wants to know about someone that comes in and talks about how you should choose and challenge yourself to accomplish your dreams, but when it gets too hard, you quit. No one. So that's one of the reasons why I get back up and I keep doing what I'm doing. There'll be a day when this game is no longer for me. There'll be a day when I have to retire. And I move on to other things. But as long as I play this game, my sons, my wife, my family, my friends, and my teammates will know that I don't do it just for me. I promote things that I believe that are worthwhile to promote. And I believe with the media access that we have, that's a platform for me. With the ability to influence people, that is a platform for me. Because like I said earlier, whether we believe it as athletes or not, we influence culture. I watched this Little League World Series and so many guys these little kids hit homers and they flip their bats and they run around. They disrespect the game because they see other guys disrespecting the game. They do all this weird stuff and they're promoting, and you know what? And that's one thing for me as an athlete. I came up earlier in the game where that stuff didn't happen. You went out there, you kicked someone's butt, you got in your car, and you went home. That's what you did as a baseball player. That's how I was brought up to play the game. That's not necessarily the game anymore. You see a lot more stuff, and you know what? I'm not saying it's wrong all the time. That's just not me. I'm not a handshake guy. Do weird stuff. I ain't gonna do that. I'll give you knucks. That's about as far as I go. All right? I mean, that's just me. But there are other guys that are into all that stuff, and that's great, but that's not who I am. That's not why I play this game. I play this game so I can stand in front of young adults like yourselves and promote what I believe matters. And my handshake doesn't matter. Honestly, at the end of the day, what I did in the game does not matter. How many people know what I did a year ago this date? Anybody remember? Right. You don't. I don't even remember. So in the end of everything, you don't know. They remember you won a World Series. Awesome. But I will guarantee you in 25 years, there will be a few people, not many, but a few people that can tell you the lineup of that World Series team. I can promise you that. Because when it comes to sports, you're only as good as who you are at the time. When it's over, they forget about you. What I don't want to be forgotten about is what I did for humanity. What I don't want to be forgotten about is while I played this game, the people that I met and the kids and the individuals that I helped rescue out of slavery. That's what I want to be remembered for if I'm remembered for anything. I want my kids to say, yeah, my dad was a major league athlete, but you know what? My dad helped a lot of people. And he helped a lot of people get out of slavery. He helped a lot of people eat. He helped a lot of people who are thirsty drink. Because I put wells in. We do hunger initiatives. We fight trafficking. We help out in poverty areas, because you help out in poverty areas, you will end trafficking, because that's where it's happening. So we help with those things, and that as an athlete is what I truly believe what we need to be here for in the community. This is why we are here. I get to play in a Giants uniform, and I know a lot of players that played in this uniform, and they are really respect. Well, the greatest player of all time played in this uniform, Willie Mays. I respect that. I respect what he did. I respect what this team has done. I respect the history of this team. And I'm happy that I get to play in a uniform for a team that represents a city that I grew up for 4 or 5 years close to and went to the games and watched them play. I respect that. But that is not what I want to be known for. I want to be known for what I do and how I help other people, because you save a little child, man, that's unconditional love. That is not found very much in this world. It is not. I tell my wife, it's hard. You know, a lot of times marriages, they're built on conditions. It's built on conditions. You see it now. Marriages are now a contract. It's not a bond. It's not a lifelong thing. For me it is, but it's a conditional deal. But I'm going to tell you what, when my children were born, I looked at my 2 little boys. They did not say one thing to me. They did not say, "Hey, Dad." They screamed and peed on me, okay? They pooped on me. My second son peed in my mouth the second day. Trying to change his diaper, he shot all over my face. So he did nothing that was anywhere like what I was excited about. But I'm going to tell you right now, you walk in and try to take my kid, serious disagreement. And my kid did absolutely nothing. And I love him. And I'd die for him on the spot. I'd die for every one of my children. And they did absolutely. That's unconditional love. And that's what we need to do more of. Because when you help these kids, they've done nothing for you but get trafficked. That's all they've done. They've done nothing for you. They've done everything for everybody else against their will. And we have the ability to help those kids. That's fulfillment. I don't care how many World Series I'm a part of or how many World Series I've won. It is not fulfilling. Because once that World Series was over and the parade was done going through the city, I went home and life went on. It's over. Now for a lot of the fans, it was exciting. And a lot of the fans who grew up watching the Giants for the last 50 years, they carried it through the year. They're excited. Some are still excited, and that's great. But for an athlete, I move on. I've got to go for the next year. I can't live off that. I've got to play for the next year. And then it'll all be over, and I got a World Series ring that people are going to be like, "Oh, that's cool. Put it on, take a picture, and leave." It's not fulfilling for me. What's fulfilling for me is to know that there are kids out there that could have died that now have life, now have the ability to dream, now have the ability to become a success, now have the ability to chase their destiny because of what we've done for them. And we've helped that because we just look at them with genuine love and say, "You know what? You are a human being and you have the right to be like me. You have the right to go to college. You have the right to dream. You have the right to be an athlete. You have the right to be an entrepreneur. You have the right to be a lawyer. You have the right to be a doctor. You have the right to be whatever you want to be. And these people that are trafficking are not allowed to take your rights." That's what I want to be known for. That's what I want to do as an athlete, is to help push that. And we've done it. You know, one of the things that what we did, you know, when Dave and I started brainstorming, how can I as an athlete help with this stuff in this organization, you know, we had our creative minds going, and we started thinking. And he said, we have a thing called free to play. We kind of just started, and I think we can push that. And so I started reading more about free to play. I started reading about, okay, this is an awesome deal because now we can use athletes of influence. And so we can get athletes to promote this cause, or fans to get together and promote this cause. And it's all because of either the athlete they follow or the athlete themselves, who have the same mentality I do, that says, okay, let's have goal setting. If I truly play this game for other people, what can I do then? Every strikeout that I get, every hold that I get, every win that I get, every save, every game I appear in, what can I do? Because that would help me, because when I go out there now, it just gives me more reason to do well. And so we started this thing called free to play. And what free to play does is, basically when I first started it, I would basically give money for every strikeout and every hold that I would get, and would go into this free to play pool. And we had kids doing it. We had the USF girls basketball team doing it on 3 points, and every 3-pointer they made, and so different athletes were promoting this on different goals, and they were putting money into this pot. And what free to play did was, first of all, what it did is, if you've read Dave's book, or if you're going to, he met a woman named Krunam, and she rescued a bunch of kids out of sex slavery, and they had a little spot. We put up we got some homes for them, and we built a hospital to help these kids because they got diseases, obviously, from these guys that are doing this stuff to them, and so we got this community going. And the first thing we did, we put a basketball court in, and we said, "You go ahead and dream, play. What you want? They want to play basketball. Well, then we're gonna give you a basketball court." So all these athletes, whether it be little leaguers or college or professional athletes, we threw money into this pot and built them a basketball court. And now we got 3 of these kids, I think, on the national team, Thailand, playing basketball. We got a couple more kids coming to universities in the States. I mean, we gave these kids the ability to just play again like kids, because they've been put in adult situations for a really long time. And now, just be a kid. Just have fun. Start creating those dreams again. by playing. And so I was able to, this spring training, I said, I got to figure out how to get athletes involved. Well, one thing about an athlete is, we get approached on a lot of things because it's not a secret. We make a lot of money to play a game and to be a kid. And so we get approached on a lot of things. A lot of people are saying, can you give to this, or can you help with this or that? And so most stuff gets thrown in the trash because we don't know you. I mean, I've even got guys that are saying, hey, I want to invest in this. Do you want to give me money to invest? I'm like, what? That works? Like, I don't know who you are, and you just randomly want me to give me money? Like, so we got all these people asking for money. And so we understand that. So what athletes have is that we got a little bond, and if another player comes up to them and it says, hey, this is my thing I've got going, I want you to think about maybe helping me, we'll trust that. Because we're with these guys more than we're with our own wives during the season. So they're like close brothers, man. We'll trust them. And so what we do is we get into those situations. Well, what I've also learned, especially when it comes to trafficking, is a lot of men are embarrassed by it. I can tell you that. Because once you start figuring out where the trafficking's at, it's the internet porn industry, the strip club industry, all this stuff. Guys are like, ew, I don't know. You all of a sudden they quiet down pretty quick. Because it's embarrassing. Because they're like, man, I've supported that. Like, I don't know if I want to really be available for that. I mean, it's kind of a good cause, but all the girls are piled in here. Like, yeah, let's fight for them. No, we need more guys to fight for them. But what I've realized is when the wife throws the elbow and says you're going to do it to their husband who's an athlete, it gets done. I'll tell you that right now. And my wife looks at me and she says, you're writing a check? I'm like, okay, how many? Here you go. It's how it is. So I basically got the guys together. We have these Bible studies in spring training in Arizona. We got like 5 of them and going. Well, all the wives show up for it. So Dave came down. We went into each Bible study and we promoted this deal. And I talked to the athletes. I know every single one of those players in there. And I talked to them from my perspective. And then I looked at the wives and I said, this is a huge deal for you as well. Because one thing about baseball wives that you will understand that my wife's a little bit of a spitfire. That's an understatement. But her daddy's a big business owner, and she's got her dad's personality. And so it's not good whenever we go to these functions and like, oh, so you're Jeremy's wife. And I'm like, oh no. And my wife goes, no, my name is Larissa, not Jeremy's wife. And I'm like, I look at her, that's a bad idea, dude. You better not do that again. It's not good, man. She has her own identity, And so she doesn't like to be identified as Jeremy's wife, So it's one of those things where I talk to the wives and I say, this is a huge role for everybody. And we need to know, I said, I'm not trying to generalize women, but they consume a lot. And so we got to understand where we're consuming. We got to understand where we're buying. And so I talked to them about it. And I said, guys, look, I understand that we're focused on baseball, but we can do something while we play baseball to help this out. We can have goals. And I was able to get 17 guys signed up for this thing called for free to play. And all 17 of these guys become a free to play all-star. And it's on the website, and Facebook Causes has it. And they made an app for us. And these guys now you can pull up and it'll show you what they donate for. This is what they're donating. And then you can join them. You can say, well, my favorite player is Matt Holliday. Good friend of mine. He gives 500 a homer. You can go up there and say, you know what? I'll give 25 cents for every homer he gets. And you can actually put that on and have your own. You can build your own team. You can design your own fantasy team. You can pick a favorite player out. And so we designed this deal where fans could join us and help us out because that's what we need. A lot of people think athletes that make tons of money, we can do it ourselves. That doesn't make sense because you can get big organizations that give a big chunk of money. You can get like 4 or 5 of those that give a lot of money. But most of the time, the causes and the movements that accelerate are the ones that have a bunch of people, just people, who are saying, I want to promote this, I want to help this out, giving a little bit of money. That's how movements start, and that's how they generate energy. And so for me, this is a huge cause. Because now, if you are a fan or you are an athlete, if you're a baseball fan, you can now go in, we've designed it where you can pick any player. And they don't have to be part of the free-to-play all-star team. You can be any player you want. And then we generate that cause. And what we do is we track how many people, like you sit there and you'll be like, hey, Buster Posey, hey, I just want to let you know, man, I fight in this, and you got like 500 fans right now that are giving to free-to-play because of what you do. Would you think about joining us? And then becoming an all-star. And that guy joins us, and then we get these people. And so now people are starting to see athletes in Major League Baseball, and we got the Major League Baseball, the union, helping us out now. They want to help build. They want to help us with a potential, baseball facility or that we pump, because a lot of these baseball players want to build baseball fields. Because what happens now is we put baseball fields into these areas where there's kids being trafficked. We rescue them from that, and now they go on a baseball field. They play softball. They play baseball. They have fun. You push the sport. We teach them life skills through the sport. We teach them what it means to deal with controllable and uncontrollables. We teach them how to deal with failure, because this game is all about it. Hall of Famers fail 70% of the time. I will be honest with you. If you think you're going to get a job and fail 70% of the time, you're not going to have that job. You're going to get fired. We get put in the Hall of Fame over it. So it's a weird game. So for me, you teach these kids these life skills, and they can become who they want to. Maybe a baseball player, maybe they don't, but they can actually dream again. And that's what free to play is all about. That's why I support this, because for me as a baseball player, that is a huge platform for me. Because I can now do something with the game. Because I would do some, when I'm done playing, I'm still going to do something about this. This isn't only as long as I play baseball, but as long as I'm in this game, this is how I can help and maximize our value as athletes. And then we get other players involved. And we got actors now that saw the CNN footage about free to play that have called in and say, hey, how can we get involved? And we got musicians coming in and doing the free to rock stuff. And you got, different musicians, joining in with that. So we've got different cultures coming in, because all these guys are saying this is not right. And we need to push this, and we need to help out. And you guys can go and get there's the Free to Work app. You can look at different businesses and their grades and who to buy and what not to buy from, and figure out how to do that. And for me, I was always like, someone's picketing this company again, saying, I was always rolling my eyes at that stuff. Now I'm not necessarily going to be out there picketing. I'm just not going to buy the product because it's not worth it. Right now, I'm not going to buy a Hershey bar because they use 7-year-olds to pick their cocoa beans under an AK-47. I don't want to buy it for $1 because I'm supporting that cause. I'd rather buy from a chocolate company that actually values, 1, the human being, and 2, values a good work ethic. Like, if you work hard, we're going to pay you. That's how it works. My view is, if you don't eat unless you work. But if I work, I deserve to eat well. And you need to pay me what I work for if I work hard. And there's a lot of companies out there that I don't have that viewpoint, because they want to make their most money on their end. And they're greedy. And they're taking life, really, from people. So we fight it. And I encourage you guys to check out the free-to-play stuff. I mean, it is an awesome deal. If you're an athlete and you're looking at, I want to help, we're not asking, everybody to give tons of money, man. But if you want to join in, and people say, well, what's a quarter going to do? Well, your quarter is not going to do anything. But that quarter going into a pool of a bunch of other quarters is going to do a lot. And we need that. And I need that. And this will not work unless fans get together. I mean, the 17 ball players that are giving to this, yeah, we're going to do some damage because they're going to give some money. But it's not going to work how we want it to work. Where we actually make a significant mark in this world by people joining us, fans joining us, and seeing what their money is doing. Because what Not For Sale does is it's going to tell you exactly what you put it into there, we build a facility, you're going to see it. I mean, it's awesome. And I trust these guys. I'm an ambassador for them. I think it's me and Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, hanging out, drinking tea. And, she's making fun of me. And, I'm not going to make fun of her. I'll probably get tackled by her service guys. But... so we're trying to promote this. We're trying to get it going because this is a huge cause. 32 million. I think that they say 27 million. I think that's a little short, but it's 27 to 30 million slaves in the world today. There's more now that it's illegal than when it was legal. That just shows you it's a $32 billion industry. So world economy is getting $32 billion. So people want to say, yeah, that's not good, and then they turn, but it's $32 billion. I don't care if it's $32 billion. You're taking someone's life from them. It ain't worth it. It's not even worth it. It's not. My kid's not going to get. And we got dads selling their kids. We got moms selling their daughters. We have tough scenarios going on. My kid, you try to take my kid, it's not going to be good. So for me, it's a cause that I love, and it's a cause that I love to use through baseball. And I've learned so many skills through this game. And one thing I've learned at this game is we have a huge ability to influence culture through this game. I mean, Brian Wilson is pretty much done that, because now everybody's trying to grow a beard. So, you know, because they want to be like him, or they got Fear the Beard shirts, or whatever. You know, we influence culture by just the little things that we do. For me, it is not going to be self-promotion. I'm not going to try to influence everybody to grow one of these. I don't even know what it is. Okay? So it's not going to be that. For me, I want to influence culture that I want to try to get other people in the fight with human trafficking. I want to get other people in the fight against wells, you know, to where we can build wells. I want to get people in the fight against hunger. I want to try to help humanity through what we do. And this is one of the most important things, I think, in the world today. And that's why I fight for it, and I'm an ambassador for it.